Hey guys, it's Xenofang here, back on another Monster Hunter video. Today we're going to be going over another build which is specifically made for fighting tempered or arch-tempered kirin. This is a high defensive build based around thunder resistance and just being able to take any hit that a monster can provide at you without getting instant killed if it has the capability of instant killing you. It is also, again, like I said, based around the gunlance, and it includes some of the new Lanastra pieces if you end up wanting to use those. I also feel like the new weapons that they provided is almost unnecessary just because of one of the talents that it provides to you, which ends up being Guts. So on that note, we end up using the Empress Howl Blaze. This ends up giving me Guts, like I said, and it is a gun lance, in turn allowing me to end up foregoing all attack boosts. Though I have ended up putting one attack boost in the set, and I'll explain why here in a bit. But it ends up let me use something like artillery, which ends up allowing me to increase my shelling rounds instead of worrying about attack boost, because when it comes down to attack boost is not going to affect your shelling. The only thing that's going to increase your shelling damage is artillery. So I don't have to stack any damage at all because I've got artillery on my build. And that's what it just comes down to. You know, I'm not going to get any more damage output, so I'm end up doing the max amount of shelling damage with that. And especially if you're just planning on shelling the whole time, this is a pretty good thing. And I know that what is called this particular weapon only has 2 shells in it, but it just comes down to it. Shelling twice and then blocking is pretty much what you're going to be doing when it comes to kirin. You're not going to shell 6 or 7 times in a row. Alright, well, let's go ahead and get on to the gear, because the gear is what makes up this build as addition to the weapons. Alright, so we're sitting here with Ergon Helm A. This ends up giving me Thunder Resistance 2 with a level 3 gem slot. Honestly, gem slot 3 doesn't really matter because we're just going to use it for a regular gem slot, and it just came down to it. I needed an extra Ergon piece, and I figured that since it has thunder resistance that, you know, this would work very well for fighting kirin. Alright, getting on to the next piece, which ends up being the Empress's Male B. I could, if you want to, substitute this for the Damascus Male B for the extra 3 slots and focus if you're particularly using a different weapon, such as the Charge Blade. But I feel like the defensive stat that this provides, as addition to the versus thunder, ends up giving you 1 point of thunder resistance compared to the 0 that the Damascus gives. And like I said, we're fighting tempered kirin here, or arch tempered kirin, so we need all the resistance we can get towards thunder. And like I said, I was mentioning how I do have 1 attack boost thing on this build that allows me to get increased attack just via basic attacks, and that's peak performance. It just comes down to it's not really necessary. I mean, if I want to, if I do end up having a chances to use basic attacks besides shelling, then yeah, you know what, peak performance is going to boost my damage a bit if I'm at full health. Again, I'm not guaranteeing anything, it just came down to I wanted the extra slots, I wanted the defense bonus that it provides me, and the versus thunder. And that's what it came down to for that specific piece of gear. I just wanted the slots. We go on to our Ergon Van Bracers A. This ends up giving me Guard 1 and Defense Boost 1, and it gives me an extra slot with 1 point into thunder resistance. Great. I need more defense. The more thunder resistance we can get out of this build, the more we can sustain those attacks. You know, we can take those like the boss. We're going with the Kolotaroth Miles, or whatever it's called. It looks like a skirt-looking dress thing. It's pretty cool. It ends up giving me... Oh, whoa, I didn't mean to do that at all. Let's go ahead and get back over there real quick. It ends up giving me free element and... free element slash ammo up 1. Not necessary at all. Doesn't provide any benefit to my build in any aspect or another, but it does provide handicraft. And since I'm using some of the new Lanastra weapons, it ends up having natural white sharpness, in turn giving me another good hefty chunk of white sharpness, which I think is pretty good. As just to that, it gives me 1 free slot, which is what we were particularly going after, and it gives me a good hefty amount of defense and thunder resistance. Again, it gives me 3 points into versus thunder, and that's what the whole build's about, fighting those tempered electric monsters. And hopefully, you know, who knows, they might end up adding another one in the future. This might be a very good build to fight it with. Then we go on to our final piece of Ergon, the Ergon Grievers A. This ends up giving another slot and guard up 2, which is great. It ends up giving us, or sorry, guard 2, I mean, and then it gives us the talent guard up. This in turn allows us to have a total of, let's go ahead and go over all of our stats real quick. We have defense boost 5, thunder resistance 3, artillery 3, guard Guard 3, and Divine Blessing 3 with Handicraft 2, Peak Performance, and Free Element / Ammo Up, and Guts. As addition to that, we also get the Aragon, what is called 3-piece talent, which ends up giving us Guard Up, allowing us to block any attack that's in the game that is usually unblockable. I forgot to show off the decorations, so we'll go ahead and get right back into there just so you guys can see what it is, so it finalizes the build. It just comes down to I'm using 4 defensive decorations, or defense jewels. Allows me to get higher towards that maximum defense. I end up having a total of 5 defense, allowing me to boost up my defensive capability while I'm showing the defensive stats here in a bit. Thunder Resistance 1, just so we can max out that Thunder Resistance, and then we have 3 protection jewels so we can get that Divine Blessing, which allows us to have a chance to reduce the damage that we regularly would take by 50%, which is phenomenal. You know, we want to be able to take anything that any of these monsters can throw at us, and I think that, you know, when it comes down to it, Arch-Temper Kirin is going to be one of those monsters where we need to make sure that we can take whatever it throws at us. Let's go ahead and look at our defensive stat and our resistances. We have a total of 516 defense. That is with, of course, the, I believe, the Power Charm and the Armor Charm and the Power Charm with the the Power Talon and the Armor Talon. Of course, you always want to use those, especially if you're in the final portion of the game. And we end up having a positive 22 into fire versus fire, and then positive 30 into thunder, which is what we were particularly going after. Again, you could switch up some pieces in this and end up using it as a build that's particularly for fighting fire monsters if you like, but again, this is more suited to fighting something like Tempered Kirin. We got -7 in water, -10 in ice, and -7 in dragon. But again, what we're particularly fighting, we don't really have to deal with those elements. So this is what it just comes down to. We have a whole bunch of defenses. We've got the capability of taking a lot less damage via thunder. We've also got, you know, artillery, which allows us to do the max amount of damage via shelling with our gunlance, and we can also block anything that the monster provides at us via guards up. Also, Guts will allow us to take any fatal damage while we're at a certain health pool, so we won't get instant killed right off the bat, allowing us to heal. In turn, just gives us a fully well-rounded defensive build that just cannot get penetrated. I dog this build, freaking Kill Kirin build for me. I just really like it. So, in that case, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully, this helps you with fighting Tempered Kirin or Arch-Tempered Kirin once it comes out. Hopefully, we'll see some gameplay of that in the future. I will hopefully have some gameplay of me actually fighting Tempered Kirin with this build once I eventually get the quest for it. I don't have any what is called investigations right now. I'm gonna have to ask my friends and see if we can get a, like, I don't know, group quest or whatever, so I can show off the build. But if I do have the build or the build in action, I will have a link in the description below so you guys can see the build in action. Other than that, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time. Bye, guys.